We all have heard about the infamous Cyberpunk anime based on the super hyped video game that came out last year. We are finally bringing a recap of it for you all. Hello and welcome back to AniCap Explained. Today we'll be recapping the anime Cyberpunk Edgerunners. So let's begin. The tale starts with an Edgerunner, a futuristic mechanical man attacking the police department suddenly. When the chaos of the attack subdues, the scene shifts to David Martinez. He is a schoolboy with a tough life living with his mother who works day and night to make ends meet in a night city, with a government overly dependent on high technology. With the fear of burdening his mother, David tries illegally getting his hands on the required update he needs for school assignments as he cannot afford it. But unfortunately, David's altered technology ruins the whole system in the class, and his mother is asked to pay for the damage. Returning from school, a shooting between two gangs is taking place, which causes their car to topple and cause a significant accident. David feels relieved seeing the rescue team arrives, only to be shocked when they leave after checking that they don't have insurance. However, David's mother is taken to a local hospital where she goes into surgery. David feels stressed and has to rummage through his house to find something to pay for the surgery. The only thing he finds valuable is Edgerunner's technology, and he tries to sell it but sadly does not get the required money. David receives the news of his mother's death the next day, which triggers him immensely. Now he has nothing to hold on to, making him take a drastic decision to turn into an Edgerunner by fusing himself with its technology called the Sandevistan. David takes revenge and fights off his school bullies using Sandevistan. This technology is known to heavily damage the brain and the user's high possibility of turning into a mechanical maniac. As he becomes visible to the people around him, David catches the eye of the principal through the camera, and he calls him in to test technology as he is impressed by his immunity against any after effects of the Sandevistan. On the same day, David meets a pickpocket Lucy, apparently a chip stealer on the train. Both get along and decide to work together, in which they succeed and steal a whole lot of chips. However, just as they celebrate, David notices a severe nosebleed and blacks out. After this, he wakes up at the doctor's place and decides to stay at Lucy's for the rest of the day. Lucy and David bond and tell each other about their dreams. Lucy turns out to have the plan to go to the moon after leaving Night City. But the peaceful date gets interrupted by some thugs crashing inside Lucy's place and threatening David to hand over the Sandevistan. It turns out that Lucy and the thugs are cyberpunks in disguise, aka Edgerunners. Maine, the leader of the pirates, reveals to David that he owes him the money he gave to David's mother Gloria. Him being the owner of Sandevistan asks for payment, and David proposes a deal where he will work for him to pay off the debt. They accept him for the trial run to witness his skills in using this technology, and following his successful trial, they give David a task to capture the shipping data from a corporate. The drill starts pretty smoothly, but halfway through things get messy. Lucy and David get the order to drive away from the scene. Although all went well in the end due to organized teamwork and David's impressive driving. Finally, David becomes the official cyberpunk, proving his skills to the team and the leader. At the same time, a guy named Faraday arrives and informs Maine that the task didn't go as secretly as expected, and warns him to be more careful in the next job. After becoming a cyberpunk, David starts getting used to his new life. In contrast, Lucy becomes his trainer, and Maine takes responsibility for polishing David's other skills like driving. Eventually, the crewmates and David progress towards better bonding and understanding because of their time together. However, Maine questions David about his and Lucy's relationship, which unsettles him and says that she might not have feelings toward him. After some days of regular patrolling, the crew of Cyberpunk Edgerunners unexpectedly gets attacked by a robotic maniac. The brutal attack messes up David's confidence, and he freezes while Maine rescues him, reminding him to focus. Lucy gets in trouble, and it triggers heroic motives in David as he dauntlessly rescues her by defeating the robotic maniac. Thanks to the chaotic night, Lucy finally fesses up her feelings towards David by giving him a passionate kiss. It turns out that the cyberpunks get a new mission involving Tanaka, the principal of David's old school. He takes the lead and gets the guy who makes fetish-based BDs, Kurosaki. The plan backfires as Kurosaki kidnaps David. While they both try to catch him, Kurosaki dodges it with an EMP wave. When David wakes up, he finds himself in an unusual setting, getting victimized for being a cyberpunk by the police surrounding him. David then puts two and two together, realizing that he's in a VR and Kurosaki was behind the cause of Sandevistan's previous owners becoming a robotic psycho. In the VR, he is tortured, but Lucy crashes the place and saves David. Meanwhile, the whole gang of cyberpunks manipulates Kurosaki to cooperate, leading them to Tanaka. As they succeed in sabotaging him, he desperately tries to resist the implant but fails to fight against Main and David, which also results in the death of Kurosaki. Before we continue, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel. Done? Well then let's continue. The captured Tanaka, being one of the executives of Arasaka, is forced by the cyberpunks to gain the intel from him. Main suddenly feels sick and hallucinates, showing signs of robotic psychosis. Dorio warns him to be careful, but Main carelessly dismisses it and injures Kiwi. Lucy is the replacement for Kiwi, forcing information out of Tanaka's head. As she does her job with David beside her, Tanaka suddenly gains consciousness and starts manipulating him. However, Dorio saves them both, but Tanaka dies during this chaotic event. The rescue team immediately arrives to treat him while a fight starts between David and Main, blaming each other for the disaster. But as usual, Main orders David and Lucy to leave the scene when the NCPD arrives. While injecting the immunosuppressants to fight against NCPD, Dorio dies, triggering Main immensely, and he turns into a psycho mode, killing everyone. Meanwhile, David insists on going back to save Main and the others despite Lucy's warning not to get involved. However, when David arrives at the scene, Main tells him to leave and move on, as nothing is left to save. He manages to escape the scene with Main's cyber arms while he dies behind David in an explosion. Since Main has died, David gains newfound respect and position, thanks to the cyber arms he got from Main. On the other hand, Lucy quits the Cyberpunk Edgerunners while she lives with David in a luxurious apartment and indulges herself in deep diving for some purpose. One day Faraday visits David and offers a mission proposal for him and Lucy. However, Lucy refuses to join and takes David somewhere outside Night City to confess about her past under the Starry Night. She reveals that in her past life as a child, she used to work for the Arasaka as a netrunner to dig out the data of ancient times from the internet. She tells further that it didn't last long, and she along with other netrunners escaped the corporation and never looked back. Lucy also tells him that her arrival at Night City is for the same reason. After that, David hugs her when she shows her fear for his safety. Furthermore, the scene shifts to Lucy killing a netrunner hunter, who turns out to be the one killing the employees of Arasaka. It's been a few days since Lucy confessed about her past. David goes on one of Faraday's missions with his crew against Arasaka facilities. During the mission, David loses focus when he accidentally shoots a woman looking like her mother. Apart from this, he also feels the after effects of cyber arms, causing frequent nausea and dizziness. His friends suggest that he take the implants off, but he dismisses the thought and continues. Meanwhile, Faraday gets a close call and almost dies from the hired thugs of Arasaka. However, he tries to negotiate a truce after reaching out to the corporation. They offer him money worth a fortune to take down a netrunner causing them trouble, which happens to be Lucy. Meanwhile, Lucy takes David to the doctor as he eventually loses consciousness during cyberpsychosis. David forcefully asks the doctor to give him stronger meds to survive. Furthermore, Lucy expresses her concern by telling David to take off the dangerous implants and give up on Cyberpunk Edgerunners. But David doesn't take it as he claims to have a motive behind it and can't disappoint his dead mother and Main. During the argument, a familiar runner catches her eye, making her leave David's side and get into a trap set by none other than Kiwi and Faraday. Faraday and Kiwi uncover after questioning Lucy that she purposefully concealed Tanaka's data on David as a prospective research subject for the cyberskeleton, and was accountable for Tanaka's murder to guarantee her secrecy. She has been deep diving every day to evade David's pursuit. Faraday, on the other hand, instructs David to pull out an assault as a full-fledged Arasaka pawn. David accepts and brings Rebecca Falco and Kiwi along for the ride. However, the robbery is a ruse to force David to install the cyberskeleton. This Arasaka military-grade implant requires an exceptionally high neurological resistance for implants to be utilized for even a few minutes. As the group is about to complete the robbery, they are ambushed by the whole Militech Corp, all in line with Faraday's plan. Faraday then convinces David to install the cyberskeleton using Lucy's voice and channel. However, Lucy awakens and attempts to discourage David from performing such a deadly stunt. But she's a little late since David has almost finished installing the gadget. David quickly knocks down everyone after installing the cyberskeleton while maintaining his sanity owing to a series of immunosuppressants administered every few seconds. Now the group is on its way to Arasaka Tower to save Lucy. They encounter a lot of their corporate buddies along the way, but everyone manages to escape due to the strength of David's new cyberskeleton and some plot armor. Kiwi, who had already fled the scene, returns to meet Faraday to claim her reward but is shot by him to reduce the number of eyewitnesses to a minimum. However, she embeds a tracker on Faraday and broadcasts the position to others to save Lucy as her final stand before death. Meanwhile, David's health worsens as his immunosuppressive medications run out. The group ambushes Faraday, and an entirely insane David closes in on him. David, now almost totally a cyber psycho, rescues Lucy and brutally murders Faraday while his entire life unfolds before his eyes. The Arasaka Corporation recruits Atom Smasher, who became a full cyborg to endure the impacts of multiple implants to handle all of this chaos. Lucy and David kiss goodbye, and David begs her to pursue her goal for his sake. He encourages her to keep going and says that all his battling would have been for her to get out of this hellhole of a city. As David falls to the ground, he orders Falco to get Lucy out of there while he fights Atom Smasher. Adam murders Rebecca and then crushes David into bits while telling him it was a great run with him. David passes away, absolutely pleased and smiling. Once the disaster is cleaned up, Lucy finally realizes her ambition to travel to the moon, and once on the moon, she sees David giving a bright smile. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing to AniCap Explained. We'll see you at the next one.